He works for me now.
Good morning. Welcome to the day of our State Transportation Board meeting for the month of May, I believe. We appreciate everyone being here. Ms. Lemon is slightly delayed, so when she gets here, I'll turn the meeting over to her, because this is her committee. But today we're going to hear about the aviation planning update from Leanne Trainer, our Assistant Division Director of Intermodal. So thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Chairman Brown, members of the Intermodal Committee, Commissioner, thanks for having me this morning. I'm going to, provide an update on the aviation program activities, including an overview. Well, I got to get the clicker here. Including an overview of the FAA State Block Grant Program, project types and funding, an update on planning studies, and then highlight a few recently completed projects. The GDOT Aviation Program is responsible for assuring that publicly owned airports in Georgia are safe, adequate, and well-maintained. Georgia is one of 10 states that participates in the Federal Aviation Administration's State Block Grant Program. The Block Grant Program is an FAA initiative where participating states assume the responsibilities of administering the Airport Improvement Program grant funding to airports classified as other than primary. These airports include non-primary commercial service, reliever airports, and general aviation airports. Participating states assume responsibility for prioritizing, selecting, and funding airport improvement projects at eligible airports within their jurisdiction. Block grant states also perform FAA's oversight role at these airports to ensure compliance with safety and operational standards. The Block Grant Program began in 1989 with just 3 states, Illinois, Missouri, and North Carolina. Georgia became a block grant state in 2008. Up to 20 states can participate in the program. There are currently only 10 block grant states, as shown here. The aviation program plays 2 key roles in facilitating airport aid: airport development and aviation planning. The project selection process is a crucial component within this framework. Airport sponsors submit project applications annually through our Black Cat data system. The applications are evaluated for eligibility based on FAA requirements. And as part of the evaluation process, inspection reports are reviewed to ensure adherence to safety standards and airside requirements, which includes things like obstructions, pavement maintenance, and lighting issues. Projects deemed eligible are then assigned a national priority ranking and are further assessed for project readiness. This assessment includes an examination of environmental clearance and the status of design and bidding. And the National Priority Ranking assists to prioritize critical airport development and associated capital needs, that NPR rating. And at this point, a proposed project list is developed for review and approval by executive leadership. Under the FAA grant assurances, airport sponsors are expected to protect the airport environment from obstructions and incompatible land use and to be as financially self-sustaining as possible. Each time a sponsor is awarded federal funding, the sponsor agrees to adhere to FAA's grant assurances for a minimum of 20 years. And here to provide insight into some of the funded projects, this table outlines the types of projects supported over recent years. It's not an exhaustive list, but it highlights the focus on high-priority safety-related projects for runways, taxiways, aprons, and their lighting, underscoring the importance of sustaining and enhancing Georgia's airports through our continued investment. And an exciting item to note related to projects is the $98 million increase to the FY24 amended aviation budget. A significant portion of this increase, $47 million, will fund the new multi-county airport that will replace the current airport in Griffin. The remaining additional funds will be distributed based on ratings for projects such as safety, to include airport pavement, lighting, fencing, projects to improve capacity, and new infrastructure projects. And this slide highlights planning studies that we've completed over the last several years. Some of these are a mouthful. So The statewide airport system plan identifies recommendations to guide the development of Georgia's aviation system through a performance-based approach. The system plan examines system performance, including accessibility to airports based on drive time, runway length, and scheduled commercial service availability. The analysis indicated that 81% of Georgia residents were within 60 minutes or less of a commercial service airport. The plan was completed in 2017. FAA recommends an updated airport system plan every 10 to 15 years. The 2020 Airport Economic Impact Study quantifies the economic impact of the state's publicly owned public use airports. The study determined that airports contribute $73.7 billion in annual economic benefit to the state. It's important to note that that number includes Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. Excluding Hartsfield, Georgia's commercial service and general aviation airports contribute $6.9 billion in annual economic benefit, so still very impressive. Information in the study is intended to help the public understand the importance of each local airport and the role it plays in supporting the economy of the state. The FAA supports economic impact studies, but they don't require them on a certain cycle. And in 2021, the Joint Study Committee on Airport Infrastructure and Improvements provided recommendations for enhancing aviation opportunities in the state, which assisted to guide the program's planning efforts. One of the committee's recommendations was to conduct further studies on commercial air carrier funding gaps and air cargo investment opportunities. The air cargo study was completed in 2022 and provides a comprehensive overview of the air cargo industry in Georgia. Investments in projects identified in the study to support air cargo growth are underway. And the Joint Committee's recommendations prompted us to examine additional areas to advance aviation in Georgia. Several aviation program planning projects were initiated in FY24 to support the system of airports in our state, some of which are shown here. The statewide hangar inventory and demand analysis and an air carrier airport investment study were initiated in response to the recommendations from the Joint Committee. The hangar study is complete and was reviewed in detail with you in March. The study indicated a hangar shortage of 1,405 parking spaces throughout the state. The air carrier airport investment study is underway with an anticipated completion date of July of 2024. This study's objective is to review commercial service airport needs as compared to the economic benefit to support future investment. This study is also anticipated to be complete July of this year. Last month, our Intermodal Division Director, Clement Solomon, provided a review of the Advanced Air Mobility Study. The study aimed to prepare for the advent of this new technology by developing a community guidebook and state action plan. These resources are designed to aid partners in their AAM planning effort as this new technology continues to quickly emerge. The Rates and Charges study will provide valuable information to airports on revenue sources and the rates charged by other airports within the state. The data will serve as a critical educational tool, helping airports to enhance their financial self-sufficiency. And finally, the statewide airport pavement evaluation study is required by FAA to be completed every 5 years. This study will assess the current pavement condition index at each airport and formulate maintenance or rehab plans for these airports. This study is anticipated to be complete in mid-2025. Now let's check out some airport projects completed this fiscal year. Pictured here is a recently completed project to rehabilitate runway 523 at Lee Gilmer Memorial Airport in Gainesville. This project cost about $4.6 million. Nice green grass there. And here's an image of another recently completed project, the rehabilitation of secondary runway 624 at the Statesboro Bullitt County Airport. It's important to note that secondary runways adhere to different standards compared to primary runways. So that's the reason for the difference in appearance from the one runway shown on the previous slide at Lee Gilmer Airport. This is a visual runway only without any lighting infrastructure. And this project at DeKalb Peachtree Airport rehabbed runway 1634 and taxiway Bravo, improved the runway 34 safety area, and included construction of airport perimeter road within the runway safety area. Now to take a quick look at the program's funding. This chart shows the history of total requested funding versus awarded funding over the last 10 years, as applies to airport sponsors, as well as our projected FY25 information. The blue line represents project application requests from airport sponsors, and the orange line represents the projects funded by fiscal year with the available resources. The program has shown significant progress. Back in FY15, requests for project funding totaled about $162.5 million, with $48.4 million programmed into projects. In FY24, we received requests for about $352 million and will award $251 million. And looking ahead to FY25, 385 applications were received from airport sponsors totaling approximately $411 million, and we project that about $200 million will be available to program into projects. And here we have an illustration of the aviation program state funding since FY15. The amended FY24 budget included the additional $98 million for the program, bringing FY24 state funds up to $124.5 million, as shown there. Evaluation of project requests is underway to program the remainder of that funding into projects. And again, we are just very appreciative of this additional funding and eager to enhance the program with the projects that will support. And finally, I would like to highlight the recently initiated Fly Local program. This is a program focused on educating travelers on the benefits of using smaller non-hub airports located in Albany, Brunswick, Savannah, and Valdosta. It's funded by a USDOT grant and seeks to reduce passenger leakage to larger hub and out-of-state airports by encouraging potential passengers to fly local. Georgia's other small commercial airports received similar USDOT grants directly, so that's why they were not included in this initiative. GDOT partnered with these 4 airports to develop a customized strategy aimed at overcoming shared challenges to enhance passenger awareness and education and increase ridership. As part of the collaboration, the airports received a toolkit of supportive materials that will assist them to sustain this initiative beyond the year-long campaign that GDOT is working with them on. And this slide showcases examples of the billboards that will be featured in the local markets as part of the campaign. Radio and TV spots are also included in the campaign, with a primary focus on social media platforms. We're pleased to partner with these airports and encourage travelers to fly local. That's all I have for you today. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. A great report, and I do apologize for being late. Are there any questions from committee members or board members? Mr. Lewis?
If you could go back to the screen where you listed the studies. There, yeah. So the top one there, Advanced Air Mobility. Last month, we saw a presentation regarding the electrical vertical aircraft. Does that top item indicate there's some type of synergy that may be going on there with that new technology and playing into our local airports?
Yes, so Clement, I believe it was last month, he presented the results of the AAM study. So it does. We created a community guidebook and state action plan to help with the planning process at the local level. So that's what he was reviewing last month too.
Okay. It's been a month, so I'm a little fuzzy on some of the details, but thank you.
Just to add to that, just recently, as it might have been yesterday, day before, there was an announcement over in Augusta that there was going to be a company doing advanced air mobility taxis coming up pretty soon. I don't recall the name of the company off the top of my head, but so this is a very much emerging market, and Georgia's a very big player with it, with Archer Aviation, based in Covenant, Georgia. Factory's under construction right now, so stay tuned. We'll be flying around. And as I recall, not many of you were early adopters that were ready to get in, but we'll keep that option open for everybody.
I can definitely say for Dana Lemon that she will not be getting into one of those. Any other questions or comments? Leanne, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we'll call the Program Delivery Committee to order. And, Ms. Brown will be giving us, the Assistant State Program Delivery Engineer will be giving us an update regarding the Savannah River crossing. Please.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman, Board members, and Commissioner. My name is Chandria Brown. As the Assistant Program Delivery Office Head, I've been managing the feasibility study and now concept phase since early 2021, and my Deputy Project Manager has been Mr. Robert Johnson, who is now OPD's District 5 Program Manager. And I'm providing you with an update with the on the US 17 State Route 404 spur at Savannah River Crossing, also known as PI 0017183. All right. I'll be going over a project background, alternatives overview, project status, schedule, agency, and stakeholder engagement, and upcoming activities. This project was programmed because there is an air draft vertical clearance limitation posed by the Talmadge Bridge itself for ships entering the Port of Savannah along the Savannah River. This project is not the cable maintenance project being managed by GDOT's Alternative Delivery Office. It is a long-term solution for the vertical clearance limitations. Our design consultant is Arcadis. The current plans for this year and next year include stakeholder engagement, environmental coordination, and ultimately a concept report approval. And then from there, the department would have to determine a future funding and implementation steps. We also have a FY28 federal right-of-way phase just outside the core Metropolitan Transportation Plan, thereby making Federal Highway the lead federal agency. Project location. All right, so the proposed construction limits are within Chatham County, Georgia. However, overall project limits would extend into Jasper County, South Carolina to include maintenance of traffic, signing, and marking. GDOT has partnered with Georgia Ports Authority to study improvement alternatives to address these air draft limitations, and up to this point, GPA has funded the conceptual engineering effort. The US 17 bridge crosses the Savannah River, and it also serves as a gateway for ships calling on the Port of Savannah. With a vertical clearance air draft of 185 feet, the bridge effectively limits passages from an ever larger fleet of ships seeking to access the port. The concept phase is following the results of the feasibility study, which examined more than 24 improvement alternatives to existing bridge. Out of those studies, we moved forward the best needs for the Savannah, the region, and the state. All alternatives underwent a 3-tiered screening process, and the criteria evaluated was based on engineering feasibility and practicality, impacts of surrounding area, cost of construction, among others, and the scoring methodology was utilized. All right, some statistics about the existing bridge. The bridge was constructed in 1991. The Talmadge Memorial Bridge carries 4 lanes of US 17 over Savannah River between Savannah and Hutchinson Island before proceeding into South Carolina, which makes the bridge about 33 years old. The cable stayed bridge spans 1.9 miles. The bridge was designed for a 100-year service life, and the most recent inspection noted a rating of satisfactory condition for almost all elements of the bridge, including the deck, superstructure, and substructure. So basically, there's nothing actually wrong with the bridge. The Port of Savannah, upstream of the bridge is the Port of Savannah, consisting of Ocean Terminal and Garden City Terminal. Besides being the largest single terminal container facility in North America, the port moved a $5.8 million 20-foot equivalent container units, also known as TEUs. This is their metric for ship capacity. In fiscal year 2022, that was an increase of about 280,000 TEUs, or 4.7% over the previous year. That volume is expected to grow over the next decade to 6.5 million TEUs by the year 2030. The Port of Savannah creates jobs and opportunities that benefit millions of Georgians. Additionally, the Port of Savannah is a critical conduit through which raw materials and finished goods flow to and from destinations around the world. The Shep Harbor expansion was also a project that assisted with getting ships to the port, and that project deepened the 18.5-mile outer harbor to 49 feet at mean low water, and the Savannah River Channel to 47 feet. The Shep project's purpose was to allow the port to more efficiently serve larger vessels expected to call in greater numbers as a result of the 2016 expansion of the Panama Canal. Existing conditions, as I mentioned, the Talmadge Bridge provides 185 feet of bridge clearance over the Savannah River. The existing bridge air draft limits the passage of Port Savannah bound vessels up to approximately 14,000 TEUs. And as you can see on the diagram, the two types of ships that we're showing here related to the TEUs. Savannah Harbor pilots prefer a minimum 3-foot air draft clearance between the bottom of the bridge and the top of the structure on the ship. 4 feet is required between the bottom of the ship and the channel floor, also known as the under keel clearance, and that's labeled on the diagram that you see in front of you. Based on current projections, the economic demand of shippers seeking to bring larger ships, larger than 14,000 TEUs, into the Port of Savannah is going to continue into the future due to the economies of scale that reduce the per unit per shipping cost. And as demand increases, the vessel size will also increase, and companies are already building 23,000 TEU ships. As you can see, we cannot accommodate that size ship at this time. Based on these projections, GPA has indicated to GDOT that a 230-foot air draft clearance is needed. So that is 45 feet more than what we have now for the existing bridge. Okay, the alternatives. So based on our current work and the air draft analysis that was done in 2019, there were about 27 potential alternatives that were produced, and they were categorized according to their level of improvement. But the first category was a tunnel. Second category was variations of a new bridge. Next category, removing the bridge and rerouting US 17 traffic. Another category, modifying the existing bridge. And then the final category was a downriver port facilities. So through the analysis and study, we're trying to move forward with the new bridge and a tunnel with the federal highway agencies. And so to highlight the tunnel alternative, it would be an upstream bored tunnel under the river. This alternative would allow traffic to be maintained during construction, and it actually would eliminate future vertical clearance concerns altogether. If we were to go forward with this and we had all funding in place, it would take about 9 to 11 years to fully implement, and that includes engineering, right-of-way acquisition, and construction. Similarly, the new bridge would also be built while we were maintaining traffic as well, but it would have greater impacts to the Back River Bridge going towards South Carolina, and also to the city of Savannah on the Savannah side. But it also would be implemented within 9 to 11 years, assuming that funding was all in place for all of the phases. From a project status standpoint, we are in concept development. Traffic modeling is in progress. Environmental resource ID fieldwork is complete, and that includes cultural resources, ecology, archaeology, et cetera. As I mentioned, federal funding, right-of-way funding, it's a token amount, is on the project in FY28. That brings Federal Highway in as our lead agency. The two main alternatives under review, as I mentioned, was the new bridge and the tunnel, and we also have to carry a no-build alternative as a requirement for Federal Highway. The need and purpose emphasizes the need is economics and port accessibility. And we also have a project website that houses a fact sheet of frequently asked questions and our PIOH materials that are in place right now. As far as the schedule, we are at the first PIOH in quarter 2 of 2024. That PIOH is scheduled for Monday, May 20th. This summer and early fall, we will be engaging in stakeholder and community outreach. And then in the fall of 2024, we will hold the second PIOH, that would emphasize the final preferred alternative. The first PIOH is mainly educating and engaging the public. And then at the end of calendar year 2025, we're targeting having a concept report approved with the final preferred alternative after all the coordination has been completed. Update on the agency and stakeholder engagement. We have met with Federal Highway on March 4th, introducing them to the project. Federal Highway stressed the importance of meaningful public involvement and overcoming barriers to communication. They indicated to us that the environmental document type will probably be an environmental assessment, an EA, or an environmental impact statement, EIS, which will be determined as the project progresses. We also introduced the project to the State Historic Preservation Office on March 14th with Federal Highway in attendance. We introduced the project to the City of Savannah April the 2nd and discussed community access to computers, recommended languages for public involvement materials, input on times and venues for public and stakeholder meetings. We've also met with the interagency review team for the permitting process. We call it the local coordination procedure checkpoint, and that was, the first meeting was April 29th. U.S. Coast Guard, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Federal Highway, DNR were in attendance. We also have a second meeting scheduled with them, June 18th, to get a little bit more into the weeds of all of the permitting processes that we need to go through. As I mentioned before, the initial PIOH is scheduled for May 20th at the Coastal Georgia Center in Savannah, and the goal is to educate and engage. The second PIOH is planned for fall of 2024, likely October, and we will introduce the preferred alternative at that time. And then, once again, this summer, we're looking at trying to engage local neighborhood groups and environmental justice populations between the two public meetings. All right. Upcoming activities. So we are planning to complete the environmental phase 1 reports, complete traffic projections, refine the alternative layouts through conceptual engineering, develop the concept report, and get all the steps where needed to get through the permitting process with the U.S. Army Corps and Federal Highway. And with that, I have some videos to play for you for the tunnel and the new bridge, and then I'll take some questions after that. This one should be the tunnel. All right, we're going underground through the two portals. Side view. And obviously, the existing bridge would be removed after the tunnel construction is completed. All right. And the second video is going to be the new bridge. You see it's much higher than existing. All right, there it is. And we'll continue to refine the videos as we get further in the concept phase. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Yes, sir.
Any questions? Ms. Lemon, I saw you first.
So, since I'm not going over that bridge either, are y'all at least gonna put some, will it be a decorative bridge, like the other bridge?
That's something we could discuss
Okay,
from a cost standpoint. Yes, ma'am.
because I see somebody going over in the water.
And that doesn't have the level of detail that it would have in the end, for sure.
Oh, okay, 19 on it.
Okay. Anything else, Ms. Lemon?
No, sir.
Ms. Williams?
Yes, ma'am.
Couple of things.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to make sure I saw what I saw correctly.
Okay.
The clearance from the bottom of the container ship to the bottom of the river is 4 feet?
No, the bottom of the ship.
The bottom of the ship to the bottom
On
of the river.
Should be, they prefer to have 4 feet there. And then from the surface of the water, yeah, the surface of the water up to 3-foot minimum clearance from the
And then we're
bottom
gonna
of the
put a
bridge.
tunnel under that whole 4 foot
Well,
of
no, we
clearance.
put a tunnel under the river itself.
Under
So
the
that would be-
riverbed.
Yeah, that would be about 40-something feet
Oh,
below.
thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay. Second question, I was listening to the, Transportation Safety Board Chair talking about bridges in light of the Baltimore Key Bridge. Because of the span over the Savannah River, I don't assume we have the same safety issue as the Key did. But we are, I assume, at any future bridge looking at that vulnerability?
Absolutely. Our bridges are not in the same situation as the Key Bridge. You know, obviously, that was one of the first things we did when that happened, was just validate the Savannah Bridge. One pier is on ground, the other pier is on the bank. And the way the channel is, the ships would run aground before they ever got to the bank. And then the other bridge, the Sidney Lanier, basically has boulder islands around the pier, so the ship would run into the islands before they ever made contact with the pier. So we don't have that situation. Obviously, just yesterday there was a barge that got loose in Texas as well and hit a bridge. So you know, navigable waters or something. Same thing down at Brunswick is the ships would run aground before they ever got to the pier, even though we have it's about 4 football fields of rock around it, so that there's something to run into before you hit the structure.
And that takes the place of what they were calling dolphins?
Correct.
Those,
Yeah.
nice. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any other, Mr. Boswell?
Are these options we're talking about, whether it's gonna be the tunnel, or whether it's gonna be the raised bridge, or?
Yes, sir, there are options, but we also have to go through the environmental process. And so it's not only just public stakeholder engagement, but it's also Federal Highway, U.S. Coast Guard, the Army Corps. So we have to think about what we get permits for as well.
Nothing's been determined at this point. These are options we've got to move forward. Is that
Yes, sir.
correct?
There's still options. They're still on the table.
How long will it take, do you think, to determine?
Our schedule is showing where we'd have a preferred alternative by the end of next year. But according to Federal Highway, they would like to review our schedule, and based on what the type of document it would end up being, they may require us to do additional outreach. It just kind of depends on what the feedback we get from the public as well.
You may have mentioned it in your presentation, but do you have a cost difference between tunnel and a bridge? And
So we have some high-level cost. The tunnel is more expensive. It's
Yeah.
closer to $2 billion. And the new bridge is somewhere around $1.5 billion. But we're also doing a detailed cost estimate, so we'll have some more detailed
Sure.
costs in the near future. So it would be like a 100-year service life. Either way. Yes, ma'am.
are there any other questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Let me just make sure this is very clear. We have a current project that's a maintenance project to replace the cables and try to gain some more air draft. So that's underway. This is in the category of a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. We're taking a couple of steps here, and Chandra said this, Georgia Ports Authority is funding this work because this is all about the economics of the port, satisfying the ships of today and the ships of the future. In fact, Marco Polo has made port of call now twice. It's a 16,000 TEU ship. Kathy, to your point, 4 feet of water under a 18.5-story tall ship is not a lot. And the 3 feet, I'm more concerned about the 3 feet above than I am the 4 feet below. Their antennas hit the bottom of the bridge. So when you think about something that size, and that's not a fully loaded ship, and it has to be 16,000 TEU ships is based on tidal conditions when they actually can come in. The other thing different too from Key Bridge is they have tugs all the way up the river. So, you know, it's not a ship on its own. They've got tugs with the harbor masters guiding those ships into the port of Savannah. But this journey is to determine the feasibility, not the feasibility, we've determined what's feasible. It's what is the concept that when it's time to move forward, we know what that is. We've done the due diligence, run the traps on the fatal flaws, worked through the environmental process, such that when it's time to move forward on the project, we're not starting at zero. We're already moved down the path. And as Chandria showed you, you know, this journey, even if we said go, is probably a 9 to 10 year journey.
Okay.
I heard that yesterday, Congress had a hearing on the Key Bridge, you know, and replacing that bridge, you're saying, you know, 2 or 3 years, which is amazingly fast for a bridge that big. So we've got a long way in front of us. The point we wanted to do today is make sure you are aware, because public meeting will start next week. There's already been a few little clips and blurbs in the news, in the Savannah news market, about what's coming. But just to make sure you understood that this is us determining what's the best concept that ultimately can move ahead when it is time to move ahead. Obviously, they're both big, expensive projects, but have a huge impact on our economy of the future based on what the Savannah Port does for the state of Georgia and the nation. So Chandria mentioned one other thing. We did complete a feasibility report because she showed you that the Talmadge Bridge has a 100-year service life, and it was federally funded. So we had to do a feasibility study to say, yes, it's in not Georgia's best interest, but the nation's best interest, that we need to look at elevating or raising the bridge somehow, or replacing the bridge somehow, such that it does not have an adverse effect on the nation's economy. And we checked all those boxes showing that, yes, something will need to be done in the future. But our current project buys us some time. It certainly takes care of the maintenance requirements we have to do. We will pick up some more air drafts so that we feel a little bit better than that 3 feet buffer on top, and hopefully get more that the tidal doesn't make as big a difference on ships coming in and out. And I will tell you that when this bridge was designed in the late 80s, as I recall, and I may be off on this, but I'm not off by much, the largest ship at that time was 12,000 TEUs. So it was designed to handle the ship of the day, but nobody could contemplate going to a 23,000 TEU ship in 33 years. So just to, I want to make sure everybody knows the due diligence was done in the 80s when the bridge was designed. It was designed to adequately handle the ships of the day, but they've continued to grow. And sort of that whole thing is bigger ships, less trips across the oceans. And that's sort of the business model of carriers. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Ms. Purcell, I saw.
Well, the commissioner has actually said some of the things I wanted to clarify, and that was because of the Kirk Bridge and what we're doing now to extend the time so that we have the time to look at all of these alternative routes. And I want to thank our team for being very present and available for anyone in regards to an update on the bridge with the tightening of the cables and it being raised to give us some additional footage under that for our ships to come in and the economy to continue on the basis of which it is in the state of Georgia. So I just wanted to say thank you to our team, and I'm looking forward to Monday night.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Mr. Boswell.
So my understanding is the raising of getting more space now is not a permanent solution. Is that correct? Or
That's correct.
So
It does.
the permanent solutions of the tunnel or replacing the bridge?
That's correct.
Thank you.
It buys time.
If you replace the bridge with a higher bridge, you'll end up in the same spot, so. Yeah. And then you factor in the rate of inflation for construction. I understand $2 billion is a lot more than $1.5 billion, and you've got to do it with the environmental thing. And bridges is prettier than tunnels.
But it seems like that's I don't think ships are going to get smaller.
That's correct. I mean, if you look at Norfolk, Virginia, they have where most of the naval fleet is, there's no bridges. It's all tunnels. And that's for that very reason. They do not want to restrict any of the shipping, especially the naval ships, in and out of the port.
Good comment. Ms. Lemon.
But Commissioner, at some point, there has got to be someone who says to these shippers, stop growing, enough is enough, you're big enough. You start losing economies of scale at some point. At some point, it becomes less profitable, when you continue to put these, restrictions and these responsibilities on the cities and the states that they're traveling to. And at some point, you know, $2 billion, $4 billion, where do we say we can't afford to accommodate your humongous ship in our port? Go somewhere else, and they'll realize that they can't grow any bigger at some point.
And so noted, but it is a competitive, environment. Chandra, as one of her slides showed, the other ports that can accommodate the ships, so we would lose market share to other ports in the nation.
Yeah.
This,
Is there anyone else? Question, comment? Hearing none? Ms. Brown, thank you for that presentation. Really enjoyed it. Best of luck moving forward with this. Thank you, Commissioner. We stand adjourned.
All right. Well, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Commissioner, good morning. At this time, I will call the Gateways Committee to order. Our agenda today, we have our landscape architect manager, Ms. Felicity Davis, to provide us with a presentation of project awards from our Roadside Enhancement and Beautification Council. Ms. Davis, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Chairman and Commissioner and board members. Thank you for having me this morning and letting me update you on Phase 7 of the Roadside Enhancement and Beautification Council grant. Let's see. I'm really pleased to be able to announce this new round of funding for this grant program. It's been a little over 3 years since the previous phase, so I'm going to refresh your memories with a little update on the Roadside Enhancement and Beautification Council, on the grant program, and then I'll get into some of the details. The Roadside Enhancement and Beautification Council is an entity that is established in law. They advise on how to spend funds from the Roadside Enhancement and Beautification Fund. This fund receives some of the tag sales, a percentage of tag sales, donations to the wildflower program, and also contributory value fees from outdoor advertising vegetation management permits. There are 12 members. There are 4 from various conservation organizations, so the Garden Club of Georgia, the Georgia Conservancy, the Sierra Club, and the Georgia Wildlife Federation. There's a member of the faculty from UGA's School of Environmental Design. There are 4 members from the Outdoor Advertising Association of Georgia. And then on the transportation side, there are the chairs of the Senate and House Transportation Committees and our own deputy commissioner. The grant program started in 2008. It was previously known as Gateway Grant Program, but in 2016, the council decided to change the name. It was becoming very popular with a lot of other programs and was causing some confusion, so it was changed to the REBC Grant for Roadside Enhancement and Beautification Council Grant. And as I stated before, this grant is funded by contributory value fees that are paid when a billboard wants to remove trees on the right-of-way for visibility. Those trees are valued, and that amount of money is put into the fund for that permit. And then when the grant program when the grants are awarded, the vegetation goes back onto the right-of-way as beautification. So it's a way of replacing that vegetation out on the right-of-way that has been removed. Funds from this grant can only be used for plants and the costs to install those plants. This is a reimbursement grant. The project has to be installed by the grantee, and then the funds are distributed afterwards. There's a maximum amount for each grant of $50,000, but no local match is required. Of course, we do ask that the grantee take responsibility for maintenance of that landscape that's installed, and that's considered to be their local match. It must be a local government entity or sponsor or partner who is willing to take on that long-term maintenance for those landscapes. And of course, all plans must follow our policy for landscaping and enhancements on GDOT right-of-way for safety and appropriateness. As I stated, this grant started in 2008. This program started in 2008, and so far there have been 6 phases of the grant, there have been over $5.2 million reinvested back onto the right-of-way and beautification through this program. In Phase 7, this closed out at the 1st of December in 2023. We received 18 applications and over $800,000 was requested in funds. There were 3 counties, 10 cities, 2 CIDs represented, and one educational institution. Applications were received from throughout the state. There was an average amount of over $46,000 requested, and 12 of those applications requested the full $50,000 for the grant. 16 of those applications ranked above 40 points in staff review. When we receive the applications after the grant closes, there is an independent staff review based on 6 criteria that we that we publish, and an application must receive 40 out of 50 points on that review before they're sent to the subcommittee for consideration for funding. On March 5th, there was a subcommittee meeting. GDOT staff conducted the meetings. Myself, Chris DeGrace, Dorian Owens, and Sheen Shu with our landscape architecture unit. Subcommittee members were Alan Gaston and Heather Lloyd from the Outdoor Advertising Association of Georgia, Barbara Bork representing the Garden Club of Georgia, Dan Girding representing the Sierra Club, and Brad Davis, who is a landscape architect and professor with the UGA School of Environment and Design. The subcommittee recommendations were presented to the full Roadside Enhancement and Beautification Council at our third quarterly meeting on April 25th, 2024. 15 applications were ultimately chosen for funding in the subcommittee meeting. There was one application which ranked highly enough to be accepted, but we were not able to fund it because it would not be installed on GDOT right-of-way. 2 counties were represented, 8 cities, 2 CIDs, and an educational institution were all had their grant applications funded. The average amount awarded was just over $47,000, and 9 of the applications were awarded the full $50,000. The total awarded for Phase 7 of the REBC grant was $709,100.46. And I will say that the reason that the numbers have changed over that time is as we're doing our review, sometimes we get applications where they include things like contingency, vegetation removal, even sometimes we'll have hardscape and things like that. We cannot fund those types of things within the project, and so we just take those out, and when we send the award letter, we let the grantee know that this is what we'll be able to fund, this is what we won't be able to fund. You can use up to this amount for the plantings and the installation. Award letters and grant award agreements are being prepared, and they will be sent out very shortly. There will be award notification letters mailed as well as electronic notification, and the applicants that are not selected will be notified by letter and email as well. And we always encourage those those applicants who have not been successful to get in contact with us, and we can show them kind of, you know, what were the points of the application that took points off and that sort of thing. So we want to make sure that we're guiding our applicants so that we can have as much beautification out on the right-of-way as we can. Award agreements will be sent using an electronic submission system, like DocuSign, for example, so that we have that set up and ready to go when they are ready to request their reimbursement. In closing, I just want to say I'm very excited that we've had 7 phases of this program so far. I'm looking forward to being here very soon again once the funding builds up to be able to get some more great plants out on the right-of-way. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
I'm assuming all of this is done on public on public property, none of this on private property?
Yes, sir. We only allow the plantings to be done on the right-of-way. We have occasionally had projects where it was partially on the right-of-way and partially off the right-of-way, but we make that distinction and we make sure that any of the funds that are reimbursed only go towards what's planted on the right-of-way.
And there are not restrictions on adjacent properties after this is done, is that correct?
No, sir, there are not. It's simply looking at what was taken off the right-of-way and then what goes back onto the right-of-way.
It doesn't affect private property?
No, sir. As I stated, sometimes we will have a parcel where they're wanting to do a little bit more and kind of blend it into the adjacent property with the cooperation of the property owner, of course, if it's a public entity or, you know, for example, a university or a city or a town where they own the parcel and they want to blend it in. But yeah, it's strictly what is on the right-of-way.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Did you say you've already notified the recipients?
We are in the process of putting those letters together, getting them signed and mailed out, yes.
So they haven't gone out yet?
No, those have not gone out yet.
Okay,
We
thank
make sure that they get a nice letter that, with all the stipulations and all of the information in there, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So, yeah, I believe you've shared that with Kristen to share among the board?
Yes, yes.
So you'll get that in advance?
I've had a question in the district about, can we let them know that they've,
The information, I would say that would be something that could potentially be shared at this point because the Roadside Enhancement and Beautification Council meetings are public meetings. But that may be a question that I may have to ask one of our legal team. But I think, I don't see that being a significant issue.
What was the question? I'm sorry. Yes.
yes, what? What did you?
Yes, you can share.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you.
The only bad part about something like that is the people who won't receive the awards are gonna be upset that they weren't notified at the same time.
Well, yeah, and I can certainly see that. And I will say that when we put out the call for grants, of course, part of the award is limited by the level of funding that is available. Typically, the council wants to have at least $500,000 available for grants before a call for awards is put out. But also, we're limited by how many applications we receive. Sometimes locations don't send an application in, and if we don't receive the application, we can't give them an award. So, but we do make every effort to get that information out, spread that information out as widely as possible to all cities, counties, and eligible parties.
Do we have any further questions for Ms. Davis? Well, I would like to say thank you so much. A very thorough report. This being one of the most esteemed committees of GDOT. I do want to say this, that I have enjoyed seeing the improvements out I-20 West. It's very nice to see as I'm driving in, driving to, and even across the state. Some of what the council is doing is very impressive. So thank you so much for what you all do and making our state look a lot better and beautiful. I appreciate it greatly.
And I will say that a lot of those, especially out I-20 West, were inspired by this program, but actually were completely funded by the county themselves, having seen some of the projects that were put in place initially from this program. So it's been an inspiration for other improvements as well.
Absolutely. At this time, we will adjourn the committee. Thank you so much, Ms. Davis.
Thank you.
Now, the P3 committee will come to order, and I would like to call on Ms. Helen Pinkston Pope. She's going from Legal Services to give us an update on the couple of alternative items we need to work on, improve, and on the 285 East Express lanes.
Good morning. Obviously, I'm not Helen. Helen is here, by the way, and We're going to share some presentation up here this morning. My name's Tim Matthews, and with the P3 division here at GDOT, and we are going to, between Helen and I both, are going to present to you an update on the I-285 Express Lane project and the MMIP program as a whole. Helen will come up after me and talk about the board actions that we're going to present to the committee this morning, and then we'll talk about next steps as we move forward with these projects. I don't have anything as fancy as Chandria did earlier with the tunnel and these big bridges, but we do have an exciting program that we're trying to deliver here in the P3 division, and that comes with the MMIP program. As a reminder, that program started back in 2016, and it's been very successful delivering that program since it started. We've delivered, opened and operating the I-85 Phase 1 and 2, which widens from 2 to 3 lanes in each direction, starting at I-85 in Gwinnett County and going to State Route 129 in Jackson County. We are currently in construction on I-285 East and I-225 and I-20 East interchange, as well as the I-16, I-95 interchange and widening. If you haven't been into those interchanges, there's a lot of stuff coming out of the ground. And we are also currently in procurement for the construction of the I-285 I-20 West interchange. In addition to those projects, the MMIP program also includes building express lanes on 285 and State Route 400. We have a proven track record in the state of Georgia with express lanes, as you can see on the slide here in purple, with the Northwest Corridor Express Lane project, the I-85 express lanes, as well as the I-75 South Metro express lanes. And we also have bringing express lanes on I-285 and 400, as you can see in green. Now, we know I-285 is one of the most heavily congested corridors in the country. Some 250 to 300,000 vehicles a day travel that corridor, and State Route 400 is no different. Adding these lanes will create what you see on the screen as a hub and spoke connected system of express lanes on I-285, with I-285 serving as that hub. This system will provide a comprehensive regional express lane system for Georgia with an overall goal of maximizing value for Georgia and the users of the system. But this is just the beginning. We also have on the screen there in yellow future express lane projects in the pipeline on I-20 East and West, as well as I-75 South. Before we get into the details of the board actions that Helen will present to you later on, just a quick update on the State Route 400 Express Lane project. We proudly received 2 proposals last week for the State Route 400 Express Lane project, and we'll begin the evaluation process actually this week. The executive summaries will be hosted tomorrow, as required by the P3 rules, and once the best value proposer has been determined, a recommendation for approval will be brought back to this board committee for you in August. In February of this year, I provided an update to the board in preparation for getting the I-285 Express Lane procurement underway. As a reminder, the I-285 express lanes consist of 2 new barrier-separated express lanes in each direction, from I-20 on the east to all the way around to I-20 on the west, as you can see in yellow and blue on the screen. Each project will be broken into phases to better manage the overall delivery of the corridor, and each project will have a base phase with extension options to achieve full build-out. And I'll talk about how that will work in just a few minutes. We plan to leverage the private sector's ability to finance these projects with a goal to maximize competition while optimizing the amount of public funding needed for the state. Additional benefits for express lanes include enhanced transit operations. As a reminder, the transit service providers can use the express lanes free of charge. They do not have to pay that toll to get in. You still have to pay to get into the transit service provider, but not an additional fee to get in the express lanes. And there is also a broad regional consensus to collaborate and bring express lane transit to the corridor as well. As a reminder, as I presented in February of this year, we signed an MOU at building on the success of State Route 400 to collaborate, and those include MARTA, ATL, ARC, and 4 metro Atlanta counties, with Cobb, Fulton, DeKalb, and Gwinnett. The MOU was signed to help bring an idea of transit solutions on the I-285 corridor. That effort is also consistent with the approved Fulton and DeKalb County transit master plans. And the goal is to enhance transit operations by using our express lanes while exploring opportunities for new stations along the I-285 corridor. Those studies are underway right now and to determine operating requirements, station locations, and conceptual designs. As we prepare for the start of the procurement on I-285, we have been doing a lot of pre-procurement work, including early right-of-way acquisition, extensive stakeholder engagement, and getting the draft environmental impact statement approved by FHWA so we can hold a public hearing open house later this summer. The size of these projects are significant, and we recognize that they cannot be built as one contract. As much as we would like to build them all at once as quickly as possible, they have to be separated into phases. As I mentioned to you in February, we have reached out to the market with a request for information on our approach and to help inform the size of the project phases and to gain insight into current P3 respondents, which demonstrate a significant interest in our program. In fact, we're in the middle of one-on-ones right now, this week and next, to get that feedback to make these necessary decisions on the phasing moving forward. The feedback will inform the limits of the first phase on the I-285 East section you see on the screen there. The three action items Helen will present to you shortly will allow us to approach this procurement using our traditional P3 best value selection, which is similar to the State Route 400 project that we're currently wrapping up procurement with, and includes technical and financial scoring criteria, as well as the ability to utilize a comprehensive development agreement, or CDA, which is a form of alternative contracting method, ACM. We're proposing to procure a best value phase one developer for I-285 East with a CDA, comprehensive development agreement, with multiple extensions to achieve full build out. We will also propose the same for the I-285 West segment as well. And this isn't our first alternative contracting method. We have also used this ACM for our Talmadge Bridge project, which we are using a CMGC type of methodology to deliver that project. And this concept is also not new to the U.S. It also has been used in Texas on the North Tarrant Expressway project, NTE. Now, the rules for the ACM contemplates the following: a phase one best value selection with extensions under the comprehensive development agreement. It also allows for limited operators and minimizes interface challenges between those different developers for the phases, and creates a partnership between GDOT and developer to maximize value for each phase. And this also fulfills the goal to bring innovation and competition to the project as well. With that, I'll turn it over to Helen to bring the three actions before you.
Good morning.
Morning.
So you've heard from Tim about the projects and our plans for delivering them. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the requirements in the law, which is 32-82, and in the alternative contracting rules, which is Chapter 672-22 of the State Transportation Board, or the Georgia DOT rules. But basically, both the code and the rules require State Transportation Board approval before we can begin a procurement delivering a project using any alternative contracting method. And so that's why we're here today, because we're ready to move on to the next phase, which would be beginning a procurement. And specifically, I wanted to talk a little bit about the comprehensive development agreement. And that is defined in that code section we talked about, 32-82, and it's further defined in the rules. But the most important feature of a comprehensive development agreement is that it allows the department and the developer to collaborate and on a multi-phase approach to a project. So that's really the most important feature for the 285 Express Lanes projects. It also allows the developer to provide for the design and construction services and operations and maintenance, as well as collaborating on that development. Okay, which button? There we go. Okay, for the 285 Express Lanes projects, Tim told you about the pre-development work, the pre-procurement work that's been ongoing. And as a part of that, the project team has been heavily looking at the feasibility and the suitability of using an alternative contracting method to deliver these projects. And so we have determined that the public interest is best served by delivering both 285 East Express lanes and 285 West Express lanes by using an alternative contracting method, specifically a CDA or Comprehensive Development Agreement. And the reason is that we really see the benefits through bringing that developer early on to help with the complexity of the design here and the collaboration that's allowed by bringing the developer earlier on through the development, again, that multi-phase approach. And really, something that we've been looking at on our P3 program is the ability to identify risk, mitigate risk, and properly allocate risk. And so that's really allowed here through the use of the Comprehensive Development Agreement approach. So, again, one more point about this is that Tim mentioned that we anticipate private financing to be involved in these projects. And because of that, this gets a little bit complicated, but under 32-282, when private financing is involved, the law says that the procurement will be under the P3 statute. And so that's why we're here with the P3 committee today. And I wanted to advise you that that's where we'll be, that's the law that will apply. We'll be under 32-282 and 32-280. That's our P3 code and our alternative contracting method code section. So with that, I'm here to present our board actions or our board action request. And our first one is that we request that the P3 committee would recommend to the full board approval to proceed in delivering the I-285 East Express Lanes project using an alternative contracting method.
Is that the action you want the committee to approve this morning?
I so move, Mr. Chair, for that action item 1.
I second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any questions? Motion carried.
Okay. I'll make the motion for action, or do you want to go ahead and explain it? I'm sorry, I was moving too fast.
Well, no, please, Ms. Dunn. Action 2 is as on the screen.
Okay, I make a motion that we recommend to the full board approval to proceed in delivering the I-85 West Express Lanes project using an alternative contracting method.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I'll second that motion.
Motion carried.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you for coming up. I'm sorry I had you coming up first, but
Well,
anyway, that's okay. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm not leaving yet, sir.
Who is that?
I have one more
Oh, you're
for
not,
you.
you got one more, well, excuse me. I didn't realize I thought that was the 2 ones. Okay, go ahead.
I'm so sorry. I have one more for you if you indulge me. Just a
Okay.
minute. It's for the joint resolution for the 285 Express Lanes. Really quickly, we have one more action, and this is the joint resolution between the department and the State Road and Tollway Authority. And this is every time the two agencies undertake a P3 or Express Lanes project, it starts with a joint resolution, and that outlines the roles and responsibilities of GDOT and CERTA and sets out the intergovernmental framework. And it's very similar to Northwest Corridor, straight on up through the State Route 400 Express Lanes. And so you can see that it's very similar to those previous projects. So that I will request a motion, or we recommend and make a request that this joint resolution for the 285 Express Lanes project be approved.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other questions? Otherwise, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carried.
And with that, With full board approval, I just wanted to advise the committee that we will be able to move forward on the 285 East Express lanes with the procurement documents and next steps very shortly. And the 285 West Express lanes will follow the 285 East Express lanes. And like Tim already told you, we will be bringing the best value selection on the State Route 400 Express lanes back to the board in August. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, we stand adjourned.
Mr. Chairman, following up from you with the committee as a whole, at this time, we will have a TIA update from Kenneth Frank, who is our TIA administrator. Kenneth?
Thank you, and good morning, Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Commissioner. I'm happy to present you an annual update of the TIA program. So we'll cover a little bit of everything that we've got going on across the state. Just to highlight our 7 active regions. And before I do that, let's take a step back and talk about what TIA is. TIA is a 10-year 1% sales tax. Of that 1% sales tax, the funds are broken down into 2 individual pots. 75% of the funds go to fund the projects on the approved investment list that are selected by elected members in each one of the regions. Then those regions vote on the investment list through a referendum. The remaining 25% is dispersed to all the cities and counties in the region via discretionary funds. So they get a check every month from GISVIC, and there is no oversight from GDOT, 25% discretionary funds. Those are transportation funds that are available for all the local counties and cities throughout the regions. Now, I said there's 7 active, but you only see 4 regions up here. So CSRA, Heart of Georgia, and River Valley were the original 3 regions that passed the referendum back in 2012. So they started collecting funds in 2013, and I will refer to them as the original 3 a couple times throughout this presentation. They have since passed the continuation referendum and are currently collecting the second 10 years for CSRA, Heart of Georgia, and River Valley. Southern Georgia is on a different time frame altogether. The referendum was passed in 2018 and collection started in October 1st of 2018. So Southern Georgia is actually on the ballot right now for its continuation, and the election will be finalized on the 21st, the actual election date. So with that, I'll jump into a update for you on the original 3 regions and the continuation and Southern Georgia, and a little bit of what's up to come, or what's coming up in the next 10 years in Southern Georgia. We'll look at the collections first. This is the collections for the original 3 regions. A total of $1.59 billion was collected. $1.1 billion was held in reserves to fund the projects on the approved investment list, and $398 million was dispersed over the first 10 years throughout the counties and cities in the original 3 regions. So that $1.19 billion was to fund 871 projects on the approved investment list for the original 3. The timeline, we are in the triangle that's all the way over to the right now. So we've collected all the funds needed for our 3 bands, and we are in the project construction and closeout triangle area over to the side. We currently have 38 active projects from TIA 1 that we are managing in construction, and hoping to get those wound down over the next 3 to 4 years. Get everything closed out and stop talking about TIA 1 at some point in time. Our active regions, here's the collections for our active regions. You can see CSRA 2, River Valley 2, Heart of Georgia 2, and Southern Georgia. That is the first 10 years of Southern Georgia. In our active regions, we've collected a total of $615 million, 468 to fund the projects on the approved investment list, with $148 million being dispersed out to the counties and cities throughout those regions. So that's a lot of numbers. Very number-heavy presentation to start out. One thing that TIA always had to struggle with from an early on stage in the original 3 regions was not collecting the funds that were initially forecasted. In Southern Georgia and our continuation in the original 3 regions, we have not seen that as of yet. So collections continue to remain very good as far as the TIA's perspective and delivery. We're getting the revenue ahead of our original forecast. You can see all the way to the right in the table that we are 27.4% above forecast in CSRA 2. We're 17.7% above in River Valley 2, 34.2% ahead of forecast in Heart of Georgia 2, and 32.2% in Southern Georgia. Now, what does that mean as far as the program? Our bands stay the same in essence, so we still got the same window to deliver projects, but we had the funds quicker than we had anticipated. So to try to beat inflation and stay on top of inflation, we try to expedite the projects as quickly as we can. When we get into the bands for Southern Georgia, we could talk about it, but we're currently in Band 2. Having the funds available ahead of schedule enables us to start delivering Band 3 projects before we actually get to Band 3. So we're working the program as the funds come in, and that's the way we see that the program was initially intended to be created or be managed. So let's kind of sum all those numbers up just to give you a kind of overview of what all TIA has done to date. Our revenue collections to date is $2.2 billion and some change for the all 7 TIA regions, so to speak. 1.6 to fund 1,809 projects. Sorry about that. And $558 million dispersed to counties and cities throughout the Southern Georgia regions since 2013. It's a pretty large sum of money when you take a step back and look at it. Some of our highlights for 2023, we advanced 77 projects to construction. We had 61 projects that we completed in calendar year 2023, and we had expenditures of over $147 million that we received in reimbursements from GSFIC in this calendar year. With the funds coming in ahead of schedule, I thought it would be a good opportunity to highlight some of the stuff we're doing in the original 3 continuations. So TIA 2, we have started 311 projects from January of last year. 80 projects were advanced to construction, and 14 projects have already been completed. This represents 179 local agreements that we've initiated and started, and a contract value of over $315 million. We also have 25 new design contracts that TIA is managing through GDOT. So now we'll get into some of the region-specific updates. So this is TIA 1 for CSRA and our project overview. We initially had 84 projects to deliver, and the original budgets was $546 million. We currently have 20 projects active in construction. We have 64 projects that are complete and closed out, and we have expenditures as of the 1st of April of $388 million and some change. I'll go over, highlight a couple of projects in each one of the regions. This is the Lewiston Road at I-20 DDI. The project scope on this is also State Route 388. Horizon South Parkway, this project scope was to widen, relieve congestion, and improve level of service. The new DDI is open to traffic. This project is 90% complete and represents a $41 million investment in the CSRA region. And this project has been well needed. They had a lot of traffic backups here, And there was a lot of complaints during construction, but I'll say that it's been very quiet since this opened up. And anytime a construction project gets quiet, you know that things are running smoothly. So the county's very happy with it, and we're very happy with it as well. This is the Sandersville truck route in Washington County. This project connects State Route 242 and State Route 15 on the east side of Sandersville. This is a 4-lane truck route, and this project is open to traffic. So now we'll get into CSRA 2. The list was comprised of 162 projects with an initial budget of $555 million and some change. We currently have 18 projects that are under construction. We have 2 projects that are complete and expenditures of over $14 million as of the 1st of April. So out of I'd like to give kudos to my staff. I mean, I really pressed them to jump out to a quick start as quick as we could, especially with the funding that we saw coming in advance of our projections. So of the 162 projects, we have initiated or started work on 111 of those projects in this region. So we're off to a very good start. This is the William Few Parkway resurfacing project. This project was delivered by the county, and this represents a $2.8 million investment. We were actually, with some of the flexibilities we have in the TIA program, we were able to reach an agreement with the county and allow them to advance this before we had collected any money in the region, with the county fronting the funds and then us reimbursing them whenever we had the funds available. The road was in desperate need of resurfacing and maintenance, and we were able to work with them to reach a common goal. So that's just one of the ways that TIA is a little bit different than some of the other programs. This is County Line Road resurfacing. This project is just outside of the city of Harlem, and this represents a $2.1 million investment in Columbia County as well. With that, we'll shift over to River Valley. This is the first 10 years, River Valley 1. We had 23 projects initially. Our initial budget was $410 million and some change. We currently have 6 projects that are active and under construction, with 17 projects complete and expenditures of over $281 million as of April. We have a Metra Park and Ride lot that is just opening up in the city of Columbus. And we have a large project with Metra, and this is just part of that project. The project includes operations and maintenance all across Metra's program. And this has been an active and ongoing project for a long time. But just wanted to highlight this small little piece, this Park and Ride. That was an investment of approximately $500,000, and it actually includes a couple of electric charging stations in the Park and Ride lot as well. So the locals are happy about it. I think we were hoping to have a ribbon cutting on Friday, but I believe that's probably going to be postponed with the weather. This is the Buena Vista Road corridor project. The city was delivering this project, and it's affectionately known as Spiderweb. If you look at it if you look at the bottom left photo, you can see that a lot of the roads all kind of merge in one point, and it's a very convenient thing that there's a railroad there and a creek there. So not two things that always make traffic go well, but this project was kind of tasked with streamlining that and letting local traffic pass through without any delays. Early on into it, we figured out that the Bull Creek Bridge also needed to be replaced. So the city is working on replacing the Bull Creek Bridge as part of this project and bridging the railroad. So this project represents over a $450 million investment in this corridor. And the city led it in 2 phases. So phase 1 relocated many of the utilities that are in the area and also tied in a lot of the side road connectors. So a lot of the side road work has been done, and the utilities are moved ready for phase 2. The phase 2 is active and open for bid with the city of Columbus right now, and it will be opened later this month. So now jumping into River Valley 2, River Valley had 45 projects on the investment list for River Valley 2, and a final investment list total of approximately $400 million. We currently have 2 projects that are in construction, 0 projects complete. Well, one's really, really close. And expenditures are right at $2 million. And of the 45 projects that we have in this region, we have started work at some level on 36 of the 45. So again, just go back to my staff. Everybody's been very busy working with locals, pushing to get local agreements put in place, pushing to get design started on these projects so we can go as quickly as possible based on the funding level that's coming in. This is the Buck Creek Bypass in Macon County, and this project is the one that I was referring to that's very close to wrapping up. This project was let in September of 2023. It represents a total investment of $3.8 million, and the county did full depth reclamation and a little bit of shoulder widening on this project. And I think it's going to end up turning out very well whenever the contractor gets it wrapped up. A couple of the projects, smaller and different scopes that we're working on. In Marion County, in the city of Buena Vista, we're doing some downtown streetscapes and improvements on their square. This will represent a total investment of around $2 million. It will include streetscapes, sidewalks, pedestrian improvements, and resurfacing of the square in downtown Buena Vista. And we are hoping to have, or we will let that project as of right now in January of 2026. If we get it ready, we might squeeze it in a little bit before that. The next project is the Lower Lumpkin Road improvements that is in Quitman County. This project will include asphalt patching, leveling, and resurfacing for approximately 11.5 miles. We'll actually be talking about this project later on because it is in the June letting. And it'll represent approximately a $2.7 million investment in Quitman County in River Valley 2. Transitioning over to Heart of Georgia 1. Heart of Georgia 1 was a little bit different than the rest of the regions, with the vast majority of projects. 764 projects in total with a original budget of $366 million and some change. We currently have 12 active projects that are still remaining in construction. Heart of Georgia will be the first region that we wrap up. So we'll kind of be feeling our way through how we close out a region, so to speak, the level of documentation that we'll need to send to GISFIC and the Department of Revenue whenever we close out this region, but we're well on our way to getting there. We had expenditures of over $202 million as of the 1st of April. And one thing to show how far we are into closing out this region, we did a tremendous amount of money saving, budget saving, watching scopes throughout the 10 years delivery. GDOT came to the table and assisted on quite a few projects. The locals came to the table and assisted on a lot of projects based on the funding situation that we were in Heart of Georgia 1. But with all that being said, we were still able to disperse $18 million last year as a remainder of the program. And that was one thing early on in TIA's history. Whenever you would go out and talk, there was always questions, well, what are y'all going to do if there's money left on the table? How does this work? So we've already worked that process out. It is dispersed via the discretionary formula. And some of the totals on here show you the total that went to the counties and cities in the counties. So this is the kind of the breakdown of where the $18 million was dispersed last spring, and that was very well received by the locals. We got a lot of nice calls. Surprised to see a large sum of money pop up in the bank from GISFIC. This is a State Route 57 passing lanes project in Tattnall County. This project had 4 passing lanes constructed. It was a 100% TIA project, represented an investment of $10.9 million. This project was let in June of 2021 and completed in October of 2023. Jumping in the Heart of Georgia 2, we have 580 projects in Heart of Georgia too. So they did reduce the number a little bit from 700 and something to 580. $338 million original investment list. We currently have 60 projects that have already been advanced to construction, 12 projects that are complete, and expenditures of $5.8 million and some change. Highlight a couple of the resurfacing jobs that we've already completed. This is Azalea Drive in the city of Baxley. This project was resurfacing 2.1 miles and represented investment of approximately $67,000. This is Hen Court Road in the city of Glenville. This project was recently completed, and it was 3.5 miles of resurfacing and represented an investment of $118,000. So now we'll transition into our last region. This is the Southern Georgia region. And this is Southern Georgia 1. We had 151 projects, original budget $408 million. Currently have 19 projects that are under construction, 93 projects complete to date with expenditures of over $147 million. So we've done a good job. This was the first region where we had the situation where we were collecting revenue in advance of the original forecast. So with that in mind, we're in year 6 right now, but we've already advanced 74% of the projects to construction. So we're ahead of the advance schedule. So we're happy to keep pushing projects as long as we get the funds in the way that we're currently receiving them. A couple of projects to highlight down in Southern Georgia. This is Scooterville Road in Tift County. This project was a bridge replacement. It was let in April of 2023. The original TIA budget of $1.4 million. And this project was completed in February of this year, pending one final invoice and some closeout. This is Cogdale Road. This is a resurfacing project in Atkins County. It was 6.8 miles of resurfacing and shoulder widening. It was let in January of 2023. The original TIA budget was $2.3 million, and we actually let this one in. It was under budget. So the project was completed in February of 2024, and we're wrapping it up as well. So with that in mind, I like this map because it kind of shows where all the projects that are completed are. We got completed projects all over the Southern Georgia region as of right now. So this represents 62% of the projects on the original investment list for the first 10 years of Southern Georgia. We've already completed it, and we're pretty much 60% into the program. So happy that we've got that many complete at this stage of the game. A quick reminder of the Southern Georgia timeline. We did, as I said earlier, start collecting revenue in October of 2018. We are complete with Band 1. All Band 1 projects were advanced to construction before the end of September of 2022. We are midway through Band 2, and we are advancing some Band 3 projects to construction. As soon as we have them, we have the cash on hand to advance them in. We're not slowing down projects anymore, and we've reviewed and discussed that with the Citizens Review Panel in the Southern Georgia region. So, and with the cash flow coming in, I think this is a great transition into the TIA region and the TIA regional process. So the funds were coming in well ahead of schedule. Delivery was moving forward well. The region decided to start the process of looking at the next 10 years. So this kind of breaks down how that process works. All the counties in the region, or the majority of the counties in the region, would need to pass a referendum to start the process. That was done. Then a roundtable is formed. The roundtable is comprised of a city representative as one of the mayors of the cities in the counties, and the chief elected official from each county. So there's 2 members to represent each county. So there's 18 counties total in the region. So what is that? 36 members on the round table. The roundtable's got a difficult job of, going out, speaking to the counties and cities throughout the region, talking them into submitting projects for consideration on that list. The roundtable also elects the executive committee, which is 5 members, on the regional roundtable. And those folks have the very difficult job of taking what was, I believe, submitted around $2 billion worth of projects and trimming that down to a fiscally constrained list to put before the voters. That work involved coordination with the planning division, and a ton of meetings down in southern Georgia, to talk about project scope, talk about whether the project is eligible for inclusion on the list, and then banding and, how to spread the projects out throughout the region. So the cities and counties, they all work together to, really get behind and support this. The executive committee votes on the constrained list that's submitted before the regional roundtable. We conducted public meetings, and all this has been going on behind the scenes for the past year. The list was approved and put before all the county electors before the end of the year last year. And Southern Georgia 2 is on the ballot. So the 10-year forecast is $820 million for 10 years, or whenever you collect that amount. So if we hit the $820 million amount, the 10-year program would stop, and that's kind of why we're going in year 6 to put it back on the referendum again, because we're projected to currently end the first 10-year period in approximately 8 years. So we'll have 10 years worth of funding in 8 years. The program will be able to continue the quarter after the collections are fully met, and we'll have 209 more projects to deliver for Southern Georgia 2. This is a highlight of the project type of the projects that are on the draft investment list, or not draft. The approved investment list has just not been passed by the voters as of yet. So we've got a wide variety of projects throughout the region in Southern Georgia. And with that, I will entertain any questions that anybody might have.
Do I have any questions from the committee as a whole? I would like to make a remark and say thank you, Kenneth. I've called on you a lot, but our citizens are very happy with the results, and I appreciate you and your team and what you have done to educate our various communities as they stepped in the beginning to pass the TIA, and what they have been able to done in less than the 10-year period they had to work on. And I thank you for the push that you have given them along with your whole team as they've gone forward. Just continue the good work, because they're excited down in South Georgia, I just tell you. So with that, if not
I got
any,
one question.
yes.
Go ahead, Commissioner, I think.
No, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I just wanted to, again, Kenneth commended his staff, and he's got a small staff and a team of consultants that have done a fantastic job. I want to commend Kenneth as well. Beside project delivery, he's a pretty darn good economist, because this is all about sales tax revenue and volatility. In over 10 years, if you think about the referendum in 2012, collections in 2013 that went through 2023, think about the volatility that we've seen in our economy over that decade, and to deliver projects on budget, and to have $18 million already distributed back because of physical constraint. That meant Kenneth said no a lot of times to things that people would have liked to have, but didn't necessarily have to have. But through that, again, these dollars are not Georgia DOT dollars. These are dollars of those regions. And he mentioned GSFIC, Georgia State Finance Investment Commission. They hold the money. These are dollars, don't get encumbered with our dollars. It is a very separate and distinct program. So he works closely with GSFIC as well as the Department of Revenue in the delivery and actually the funding of these projects. So I just wanted to commend him for a fantastic job as we close out these other original TIA regions too. They're all coming in on the black, and that's quite the feat for the decade that it's been for this first 10 years. And as he said, good days are ahead due to probably some good economist forecasting being even more conservative. We're doing better than the marks that were forecast, and that's a good challenge to have, because the first decade, quite honestly, was a real challenge, especially about the first 5 years, where we were not in the black for a long time, but we've ended up there, and great work. And the other thing I'm excited about, Mr. Vice Chair, is the next 10-year commitment of Kenneth Franks to the program. So Kenneth, thank you for the next decade of commitment. Contract, you're locked in. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. Rudy?
Well, I just want to make a comment. I mean, to see the success, and since I've been on the board with this program, you would hope to just see other communities with the same opportunity, trying to, be involved. And I'm just curious, do you have any request or any interest in other communities doing this?
I know that the Northwest region, put together some stuff. We did a forecast for the regional commission, and they sent that out to some of their counties and cities to try to gauge interest. That happened late last year. They were wanting to kind of do a survey just to try to get information back, and I think they're still, entertaining comments from their cities and counties in the Northwest region. But other than that, we haven't heard anything recently from any of the other non-TIA regions.
Well, it works, and evidence is here, so others can certainly look at what has been done. And again, I thank you, and I too want to say you're committed for the next 10 years.
Thank you.
With that, the meeting stands adjourned.
Thank you.
It is a great program.